meeting of the Holliston School Committee. It's disjointed tonight with some in the room and some on Zoom. Before I begin the meeting, because we're meeting remotely, I'm going to read the statement, though I already read it before we went into executive session, but I'll read it again. Pursuant to the Governor's July 16, 2022 Act relative to extending certain COVID-19 measures adopted during the state of emergency, suspending certain provisions of the open meeting law, MGL 38, paragraph 20, the Holliston School Committee will be using remote participation for this meeting. The audio of this meeting is being recorded and will be posted to the town's webpage as soon as possible in accordance with keeping a public informed of actions during this meeting. At this time, I'll take a roll call of attendance. Don?
Yes.
Frank?
Yes.
Cynthia?
Yes.
Hillary?
Yes.
And Dan, yes. So we are now in open session. To begin, I'll entertain a motion to approve the consent agenda.
Moved by Dawn.
Actually, I had a couple of updates that I just sent to Lisa, but she's not here, so can we hold on it? Sorry, because nobody had a chance to look at them.
Yep. So then we will postpone approving those minutes, and that was all that we had for our consent agenda anyway. Are the student representatives in the room?
No.
Okay. School committee individual comment. Hillary?
No comments?
Cynthia?
Happy summer. Back here again.
Yes, happy. So we haven't met since the last day of school, so it sounded like it went well. That half day on the 17th, so other than that, no comment.
No comment.
Okay. And I just wanted to thank everybody who turned out at the town meeting, the special town meeting. We'll discuss sort of going forward a little bit, but the official count was 411 people for a special town meeting. That's quite impressive. I think the May town meeting count, which we also had some big important things on, was 440, so a special town meeting after school ended. 411, I think, was a really great turnout, and we really appreciate the community coming out and supporting the schools and voting overwhelmingly, in favor of additional appropriation. Let's see. Moving on. Okay, we have the opportunity for public comment. I just want to say that if there is anyone in the room who has any public comment about anything tonight, this is going to be the opportunity for you to have to make a public statement. We're not going to do public comment after any of the additional topics that we're discussing tonight. Okay, Don, so there's no public comment in the room?
No public comment in the room. No.
Okay, any public comment on the Zoom? You can use the raise hand function if you wish, which is under the reactions. Okay, seeing none, we will now be moving on to central office administrators updates. Dr. Custer.
So I didn't know if you wanted me to kind of walk through the process for my recommendation for tonight now, or wait till later. I can do it later if you'd like.
Let's do it when we actually get to interview Dr. Jordan.
That's fine. I don't have anything else.
Okay. Dr. Menard.
I just wanted to thank all the teachers that are hard at work at doing summer work. So a lot of exciting things are happening right now. And we had a meeting earlier this week, and the central admin and SSAs, assistant principals and principals are hard at work at planning PD for next year. So we're excited about the possibilities of what's going to happen next year.
Great. Anything else? Okay. Mr. Boudet.
I have a few things capital related. The first is the siding is commenced going up on our green wall outside. I know everybody was hoping that the green was going to stay, but on the plus side, we had no leaks.
Yay!
After the green was put up, but the green was not, it's got literally like a 2-year lifespan if it's out in the sun. So, so that's why it goes behind the.
Covered. Oh, I see.
So,
Okay.
but again, it seems like the leaks were all plugged through a couple of rainy days. So that's a plus. I did finally get a quote from the, or I should say first I had the company that resurfaced the track the last time came out. Finally, they came up finally from Georgia and South Carolina and all the other places they were. took a look at the track. They agreed with my assessment that it's a resurface, not a replacement.
Excellent.
The price has gone up, unfortunately, so it's going to force us to bid. So we'll be putting something out next week
Okay.
with the hope that it'll be this summer. If not, it'll have to be as early in the fall as we can get it done to not impact the cross-country season. I mean, the cross-country is for training more than anything else, but it should be fine. But we're working through that. And then it's those two. And then the final thing is for Cynthia's edification, I brought pictures.
Oh, Lee.
So working again with James Keast on things for the playgrounds. The resurfacing the Miller playground is actually going to commence on Monday. It will be done this summer, so that'll be done. That's really, again, it's more of an aesthetic thing. The AstroTurf has gotten torn up, et cetera, but it's not unsafe or inaccessible. But they're going to lay a rubberized surface down, which is what new code is for that. So any new playgrounds would have that. So that's going in, and again, that's going to actually commence on Monday. They could squeeze into their slot. The kindergarten playground, the people that came out, the different vendors that came out, determined that it's really just one element that really needs to be replaced. Everything else was in good shape, and the swings need kind of a sprucing up, we'll say, of materials. So that new element is going to look like this.
Which one is it? Which element? Is
That new element, it's the one, so if you go into the kindergarten playground, it's the leftmost element.
Okay.
The one on the right with the climbing thing, I was able to procure through crazy means, but I was able to procure more of the little red things that hold it up. So we'll be able to replace all those.
Oh, nice.
And they said they'll have these for a while, so we purchased, I think, 5 or 7 more than we needed, just to
Okay,
give us
just so
some
we
backups.
could change them out.
So, right, so we have that, so that's going to go in place there. They're going to do some work on the swings and do what they need to do on the surface, so that'll happen there.
Can we just show everyone too?
Oh, yeah, I'm going to show it.
for the camera.
Stay in the camera. There it
Thanks, Keith.
They'll ship you a copy if you want one.
Don't make promises.
No.
And then on the first and second grade playground, the one right behind Placentino, the element was viewed as it's an older style element. They didn't view it had enough play area things and stuff like that. So what we're going to be replacing that with is a solid surface again and a much larger element with many more activities on it.
Those
where am I?
slides.
So is the solid surface like a rubberized
Yes,
surface?
yes.
So it's like ADA accessible
Yes.
but soft.
Yeah.
So landing on, it's not like when we were kids and we were landing on the concrete?
You're not landing on asphalt
Okay,
or
just checking.
concrete, but on the other hand, it's not going to be as
Learn
soft.
from those
It's not going to
things.
be as soft, though, I mean, as
well.
mulch would be, or even the rubber
more
tires.
accessible than
But it's going to be more accessible,
Yeah.
and you're allowed to fall from like a 12-foot height or something. There's some number in there
Okay.
that they do stand standards on,
Yeah.
so. But yeah, so that's what that's going to be. So I think, as you all know, so, oops, hopefully,
Doesn't mean you won't skin your knee, it just means you won't likely
Break your
likely
kneecap.
not break something.
And they
Likely.
give us something to be able to
Right.
repair small tears
well,
or,
there's no tears. It's rubber, so there's
Yeah.
no tears.
okay.
It's a surface.
Solid
so
surface,
If
yeah.
somebody went and dug at it, with
Yeah.
with a pick or something, we'd probably have to have them come in and put some sort of
patch it.
material in to fill it.
Reseal it.
But yeah, it's not it's again, it can't tear.
Okay.
You'd have to cut or dig a chunk out, so. So yeah, so that's, that progress is
exciting.
there. We'd hoped to keep this under, $500,000. We've been setting aside money, through extended day over the years to carry a portion of this or a major portion of this, and it came in under that. So we're, again, with extended day, a program such as that, guidelines would be you want to have 3 to 6 months in reserve for rainy day type things. It's what helped get us through the pandemic, truthfully, and keep the program intact. So, again, that the $500,000 will keep us in that 3 to 6 month window of reserves for them to make sure that they stay whole and stay strong.
Okay.
And so yeah, we're progressing along. So we're hoping that everything will be done for September. That's the
Okay,
plan.
that's Mike.
That's the plan, and the vendors, again, squeezing us in. The issues are the materials are the equipment's available, it's just not in their shop yet. So whenever that shipment comes, then they'll be able to schedule us. So right now, but we didn't select anything that was not available.
Same company for both playgrounds?
The two Plastino playgrounds, yes.
Okay.
Are there any other outstanding projects that are kind of on the event horizon that or you're looking at this summer, or?
No, I mean, the summertime, again, it's basically getting ready for September.
Yeah.
You know, we have, I mean, the skylights, we're waiting for the vendor. They're available. We're waiting for the skylights at Placentino Miller for them to get going. Every day they're late, they getting less pay. There'll be a point where, you know, there's a penalty clause in the contract. Every day that they're late, they may get to a point where they're saying, screw it, we won't do it. So we have to be careful on that one. So, but that's the only one. We're obviously waiting for the Adams roof replacement as part of the accelerated repair program.
Right.
Hoping that comes in, because then there's some things we'd like to do with solar going forward. So,
Right.
I mean, it's all a network of things,
Right,
you know,
right.
so.
But we're not going to hear about that until like the fall.
October.
Yeah.
October is what they said, so.
Right.
Okay.
Thank you so much.
Okay?
Thank you.
Appreciate that update.
What I'd like to do to just ensure that we don't prolong things and the school committee is providing oversight is take a motion to approve, you know, expenditures for the track and the playgrounds over the summer, sort of, you know, as outlined by Keith.
Moved by Dawn.
Second, by Cynthia.
That requires a roll call vote because we are hybrid. Hillary,
Yes.
Cynthia,
Yes.
Frank,
Yes.
Don,
Yes.
and I'm a yes as well. Thank you very much, Keith. I think that's great progress that we're making on some important things for the community.
And it's the ongoing partnership we have with the town, with the facilities director for the town, that's been very successful. You know, again, he's had the opportunity to save a lot of time and effort on my part while he's been getting to expand his horizon. So I think it's been a good partnership, so.
Thanks, James.
Thank you, James.
James is fairly helpful. We really appreciate all the things company doing for us. All right. Moving on to personnel and the fiscal year 25 merit vote. For Dr. Fisher.
Okay. And this is something that's required to be done prior to, I think, June 30th. So a motion for 0% on the merit.
Seconded by Hillary.
Any debate? All right, I'll take the roll call vote. Hillary?
Yes.
Cynthia?
Yes.
Frank?
Yes.
Don?
Yes.
And I would be yes as well. Okay. Now, moving on, so to communications, I know Sarah's not here. She's traveling. She sent out before this meeting a list of dates and sort of assignments. So for the community, we have a list of 8 dates that we're going to be emailing out shortly. I think the first one is in mid-July, July 13th. 13th begins. So I'm not sure if the email will come out tomorrow or next week when I'm back, but we'll communicate out the dates. It's a mix of in-person and Zoom-based information sessions on the school's request. I know that there were some questions at that town meeting about further information and the ability to convey some of that. This is the opportunity for the community to ask questions. We can answer them as best we can, or take back those questions to administration if there are things that we simply, you know, don't have information yet to follow up with people. I think that this is a significant opportunity for the community to engage with us. I also think that as I was talking with Sarah, I was setting these up, we may look to do a big sort of forum, maybe a posted type of thing in September, within a week or two of the actual vote itself, once everyone is back from the summer.
Dan, I just wanted to add in, I think we should just briefly go over some of those dates because some of them are coming up soon. And I know Sarah will get a communication out regarding these, but it's 8 different sessions. The first one's Saturday, July 13th at 9 o'clock in Coffee Haven. The next one is Thursday, July 18th, 6:30 via Zoom, followed by a Tuesday, July 23rd, 6:30 p.m. at the Holliston Public Library, followed by Saturday, August 3rd, 9 a.m. Zoom, followed by Tuesday, August 13th, 6:30 Holliston Public Library, followed by Saturday, August 24th, 9 a.m. Coffee Haven, Haven, followed by Thursday, August 29th, 9 a.m., Zoom, followed by Saturday, September 7th, 9 a.m. at Coffee Haven. So all 7 of us have committed to a number of these, at least probably 2 to 3 each, 8 different sessions.
Yep, and different times, different locations, trying to get something where everyone can participate. I will also say that I have been in communication with Beth Sparrow about setting up another session or 2 at the senior center to continue that dialogue. But while those are at the senior center, they are also going to be open to anyone in the public who wants to attend. Anyone have any additional sort of suggestions or things that that you think might be helpful? Okay. And obviously, if anyone in the community has any additional sort of ideas, suggestions, or things that they'd like to see from us, please let us know. What we can do. Okay, policy. We're now to reports from the subcommittee, but sorry about that.
Right, yeah. So I don't have any policies for tonight. We had to cancel our meeting from the 18th, but we did have a meeting on the 12th. We were discussing a policy that will be coming up for a first read in August. I just wanted to call your attention to, and that one is about staff conduct. It is GBEB. Also another staff policy, a GBGB, which is about personal security. It's going to be a first draft, so it'll just be opportunity for folks to offer their thoughts about it. I am anticipating that Mr. McLeod will have some more information about policy, an acceptable use of digital resources policy. This has been like a policy that's been kind of a bear and a moving target that Dan has been trying to get a lot of feedback from teachers and particularly in other staff to make sure that it's clear and it's right for Holliston. So I'm hoping that he'll have that on the horizon in August as well. And additional policy of retention of students will be a first read in August. And then lastly, I just wanted to call attention to Mr. List had sent out an email. I believe it probably just went to high school, parents of high schoolers regarding a new cell phone protocol. It is not a school committee policy as such, but it is a new protocol as part of what Mr. List is putting forward for this next year. In his protocols, he met and reached out to 25 other peer districts. This is something we've been talking about all year. Do we make this a policy? Is it something that comes up from the teachers that they have the support and input from? And so please look for that in the student handbook in the fall. And that's it for me for now. I don't have another meeting yet, but I'm hoping we'll find a time this summer, but everybody's kind of like gone to the wind, so I'm going to hope to get something in the next couple weeks anyway. Thanks.
Sure. Budget.
We have not had a meeting in the last week or two, and we still need to schedule one for July. I don't have a date yet.
Okay. And superintendent evaluation.
Nothing
Yeah.
to report on that.
So what I'd like to do now, just to be cognizant of Dr. Jordan's time, is the rest of sort of the topics are either the special town meeting takeaways or next steps, and then obviously the interview of Dr. Jordan. So I'd like to take that up now and out of order and invite Dr. Jordan up, and then Dr. Kosovitz to sort of take over and introduce him and make your opening remarks as well.
Thank you, Mr. Alford. So yes, I wanted to speak to the why and the process that we went through of recommending Dr. Jordan for this very important position involved in public schools. I will say in my career, I have been involved in many search committees and the hiring of this role in other places. Oftentimes, school business administrator, which is that school business administrator license, is required. This role, its title can be very different. Sometimes it's a director, sometimes it's school business manager, sometimes it's assistant superintendent for finance and operations, which is our title here. But the most important part is that they do have to be certified and licensed in Massachusetts as a school business administrator district-wide, and Dr. Jordan does have that license. So that's very important, or we cannot move forward. So I'll walk you through just the initial process for how we got to this decision to recommend Dr. Jordan tonight. When I started the search, we found out that Mr. Bidet, after 24 plus years, was planning on retiring and enjoying another chapter of his life. We posted this position right after we received that notice in March, and I initially did post it as a director position after receiving his retirement letter. And at that time, I started working with the school committee on establishing an interview team. And I had asked Mr. Kime, our elementary principal, to help co-facilitate that process along with Mr. Alford, who's going to be part of that process when we started this planning. We had planned to have 3 central office administrators, and one of those being Mr. Boudin himself on that interview process. We also were including 2 school committee members, 1 finance role, actually the payroll person that works underneath Mr. Boudet, and 2 school committee members, a town administrator, 2 principals, and the 3 central office leaders that I mentioned. I did at the time reach out to staff to see if there would be any interest to have a volunteer of it, whether it be a teacher or another role in the school district, and maybe the latest in the year we did not receive a volunteer at that time. We held off starting interviews. We waited to vet candidates and determined at that time that we wanted to try to get a wider applicant pool. So I did repost it after conferring with school committee as the current role, Assistant Superintendent for Finance and Operations. At that time, Dr. Jordan had expressed interest in the role. He did about a year ago approach me and mentioned that this is something that he was considering moving into in his future. He had been working towards a role such as this, and so he did put in his resume and application at that time after I reposted. So we reposted for many weeks, and in addition, Mr. Boudet reached out to all of his constituents to let them know that this job was open in Holliston, to see if anybody that is in another district might be interested. I reached out to the Mass Superintendents Organization as well as MASC, the Mass Association for School Committees, to see if they knew of any candidates, really just trying to cast as wide of a pool, trying to get a wide pool as possible. At that time, we started looking at all of the applicants. We vetted all of the applicants, including Dr. Jordan for this role, and the school committee members, Dan Alfred and Dawn, did join with the search committee, and we moved forward with the interview process. I was notified by that group of individuals that Dr. Jordan was unanimously going to be recommended to me, and I was very happy to hear that. At that time, I reached out again to school committee to indicate that I would be interviewing him, which I did. I've had more than one interview with Dr. Jordan. We sat down and I re-interviewed him, and then I also sent my recommendation forward to school committee. And that is how Dr. Jordan is here with you tonight. I have to say I'm very excited and hopeful that he will enter this role. He is very committed. He's already indicated to me that he intends to be here in this role for a lengthy time. He's not looking to just have this a feather in his hat. He really wants to invest in this role. He's been in the district a long time. He knows the community in depth. He's worked through all of our budgetary processes as well as our capital planning process in all of our priority needs presentations. He has a strong background as not only an education leader, a manager of school facilities, and he's also completed I think it was last year, just had finished his doctoral program with a business background in leadership, learning, and organization. So in that, he has done a lot of preparation ready for this role, and here he is tonight. We're also excited that should you choose to have Dr. Jordan join this team and be part of this role at central office, that Mr. Boudet has agreed to stay on and he will mentor Dr. Jordan for the transition period. And I'm really confident, given all I know about Dr. Jordan and all the conversations that I have had with him, that he'll be a strong asset on our leadership team if chosen by school committee. So I'm excited to hear from him tonight and welcome Dr. Jordan to this interview process with the school committee.
Thank you, Dr. Kutzka. At this time, I think Dr. Jordan would like to sort of, do you have any opening comments you'd like to make, or do you want to just get ready for questions?
Sure. Yeah, I'm like listening to you from behind me and talking forward, but it's all right. Yeah, are you staring at the back of my head?
Yeah, exactly.
No, I am excited to be here. This will be my 12th year in Holliston, in whatever capacity that is. It's a position that or not the position, but a town and a community that when I moved my family from North Carolina, that I felt very at home immediately in my interviews in the community coming from North Carolina. So this is a position that I'm highly interested in. It is something that aligns to the work that I've done within my doctorate. I've had conversations with Keith over the years as far as expressing interest in this, even kind of broaching the topic of mentoring me and talking to me about different things as I looked at this type of role. And then this opportunity just kind of presented itself, and I'm excited that the opportunity of being able to kind of have Mr. Boudet, Keith, to kind of support this work. But again, thank you for having me.
Yes,
Thanks for being there.
thank you.
All right, great, thank you. So I guess at this point, we'll open it up to questions from the school committee. Does anyone have any questions for Dr. Jordan?
I do.
Okay.
Yes. David, can you please tell us about your experience in public school budgeting, the size of the budgets you worked with previously, and your plans to expand your knowledge in this area?
Yeah. I mean, I think there's nothing that prepares you for the role as assistant superintendent of school finance until you're in that role. But there are experiences that align to what that is. I've been principal in Holliston for the last 7 years, assistant principal 4 years before that, assistant principal of a 2,500 student high school in North Carolina. And there aren't many opportunities where we can really talk about what the principal does in the building. Oftentimes we see that as the kind of the teacher-facing or the student-facing side of the role of principal. But the role of principal is very much kind of the site manager of a large, complex organization. For those who are kind of in the business world that are out there, I mean, my wife works for Bristol Myers Squibb, which is a gigantic company, but they have a site manager within Cambridge that runs that specific location that's very invested into a lot of the aspects of the role of assistant superintendent of finance. So, for example, there are roughly 900, slightly under 800 and something humans that come through the doors at the middle school every day, and that's 680 students. That's another 120 staff members, and then we have parents and different other individuals and workers that come through that door. I am managing and conscious of every dollar spent, every person, every meeting that's occurring, assessing, constantly auditing as far as the value that it's bringing, the cost-benefit analysis that we're doing. Just as a small example, I'm managing kind of a supply budget that's roughly about $106,000, and in that, I'm setting the line items as far as the budget for each one of those departments, collaborating with those department leaders to identify how we're going to spend that for the year. What are those essential items? In that, on kind of on a smaller scale, we're looking at, sometimes in order for the benefit of everyone, we're looking at times where one department might be a little bit shorter than a significant need that we need in another department. So there are oftentimes might be surprises or needs to make large purchases that might result in us being a little bit tighter on certain areas that exist within our budget. I'd say on kind of technology and the different positions that we have in our building. I've been here long enough that I've been through multiple budget cycles, multiple times where we've had to cut, whether that's a position or whether that's supplies or whether that's being tighter on certain areas for the greater good of the district and the benefit for students. Similarly, I've advocated to the school committee before in the past and been granted certain positions that I felt will have transformative impact on the school. And sometimes that may result at cutting costs in other areas. I'm also, as far as within technology, I'm constantly looking at redundancies that exist within the technology that we purchase. I also will fully vet things like STAR, our assessment modules that we utilize are large and significant, have large and significant costs. We piloted those items, we assessed the cost and the benefit of those things, and moved in the direction of IXL after a similar pilot and moving in that direction. So, the middle school, the personnel costs, the daily costs, I don't move away from, or I don't stop thinking about how every dollar, even from like the expense of a certain type of pencil, can have an impact on student learning, and how we can use every dollar that we conserve and we think about can be moved to our teachers, moved to our students, so that's where the impact is.
Okay. So from budget to transportation, this position requires the analysis of large volumes of data to inform decision-making. Can you expand on your experience in data science and quantitative or qualitative data analysis?
Yep. It's on the absolute technical side of it. Within my doctorate, I've taken a doctoral level it's a co-relationship with the business school as well at Vanderbilt. Data Science 1, Data Science 2, Advanced Applied Statistics. I've also taken Public Policy and Administration and Program Evaluation as well. I've got significant or I'm proficient in a lot of finance software use and like statistical analysis tools that exist that I've done through my doctorate. I also, just as part of our doctorate, we gathered a team, and part of that team was myself, a CFO, a CMO, a dean of a college, and another educator like me, a business administrator. We worked with a small university in Kentucky that was moving towards bankruptcy. And part of our project was to do a full financial analysis of their program, but also look at a full markup as far as their financial analysis, the programs that they offer, what offerings or changes can be made and recommendations can be made to improve attendance at the school, and made recommendations to hopefully improve kind of their outcomes and their trajectory at that point in time. On the Holliston Public Schools side, those who have been familiar and around me for the last 11 years, and it's my turn to present a presentation, you're going to hear me make a claim, and then you're going to see evidence to demonstrate and prove it. And I'm also going to show the impact data of it and be prepared to show that impact data as well. So I don't shy away from, and have never, when somebody asks me, I present and make a claim. I show the data as far as the reason why this is important and significant. If the school committee supports that, I'm also prepared 6 months, 7 months, 1 year, whatever that is, to come back with the data to show the impact as well. I'm very familiar with crunching significant numbers with standardized test data, with attendance data, behavioral data, and triangulating a lot of that data, understand the impact that it has on students. Similarly, like I can't explain how complex a schedule is, and the analysis that goes into finding the right placement for students. It is when you're presented with 20% of your students that are on IEPs, a number that are on 504s, you're looking at several scheduling constraints, limited staff, and a schedule that is fixed in a certain way. You are in this absolute analysis mode and puzzle piecing to find the perfect fit or the best fit that you can in those situations.
Any other questions?
Yep, can I jump in?
Yeah.
So thinking about kind of the operational sides of things, crises arrive, a major leak, you've got a road closure in the middle of the bus pickup. And these things require quick thinking under pressure. Can you talk about your experience in managing crisis in your role as a principal?
Yeah, I mean, I've definitely been on the bus side or the leak side of that. I've been on the power outage at the beginning of the day, middle of the day, right before lunch, and we've got food in the oven and trying to kind of arrange that. But I'd be remiss if I didn't talk about like serious crises as well. You know, I've had dying children in our school. I've had heart attacks, strokes, major medicals. I've had to manage the grief of a staff member that's passed away for a grieving staff and community. Similarly with students that passed away as well. I provided privacy during students and staff that are immersed in something difficult, containing our building while keeping our school running efficiently. I've also been at the crisis level of mid-dismissal, 30 seconds to dismissal, to get a phone call from the chief of police to put our entire building in a lockdown because there's a potential armed individual in the community as a result of a bankruptcy as well, or the bankruptcy,
Robbery.
Yeah, I remember that.
I do too.
And, you know, we were able to, in those situations, be able to mobilize our entire staff and the student population of 700 students in 30 seconds. Students were already even on buses, you know, preparing to go home, getting them off the bus and getting them back into the building, getting them into doors, closing the doors, and then being able to communicate clearly to staff at that same time. You know, Chief Cassidy would talk a lot about kind of triaging and how you do that in a crisis. If you're the leader, if you're the person that's sitting at the top, you don't own everything and take over everything. You stay above, you assign individuals tasks to take on different responsibilities and duties, and you trust that those individuals will be able to lead in those moments. And then you kind of sit and figure out like what's the plan, what's the strategy, and how we're going to communicate from there. I will say, just thinking about transportation or thinking about some of these common crises, is that and I would go back to the kind of the analogy of the schedule is, you know, we might be in a transportation piece where a road immediately closes or a tree fell down, and I describe transportation similar to the building a schedule, is that when you pull that piece or you change that piece, it doesn't just impact that road or that route, it affects all of them. And similarly is a change in IEP, a slight change in a schedule, a staff member that's no longer able to be here. It doesn't just affect that program or that classroom, it actually changes as far as how we have to move staff across the entire system. So, you know, that's an area I feel like is a strength of mine as far as managing crises. I do well under pressure. I do well when in high variable situations that require quick thinking.
And one more question from me. So kind of going back to the budget component, how would you prioritize the budget allocations to meet the diverse needs of our student population, thinking about the academic programs, facilities maintenance, and staff development as well?
Yeah, I'm a big proponent of proactive spending and in order to prevent downstream costs and how you think about that. Special education costs, for example, you look at out-of-district placements, you look at the different tuition costs, even like rising collaborative costs that exist, and just even kind of the cost of the district that's on top of what we're trying to do in district. I think that there's an avenue and a place where we can do a better job of proactive work as far as where are we building out. So those costs are not going down. Special education costs are continuing to rise. And it's not necessarily about the cost. It's also about providing an inclusive environment for students and how do we best serve students in district and provide the programs and systems that exist here. You know, I feel like literacy, especially early childhood literacy, cannot be spoken or provided enough resource as far as in the research to support like the downstream consequences of not solving that problem as early as we possibly can. That is kind of an allotment or how you would allocate the funding that might exist there. I think limiting silos that exist within kind of our technology purchases or purchases that we make. We've been in the past, or it's easy to, without kind of observation of it, that you end up with like the same app that does, or you end up with 5 apps that do the same thing, and it's costing the districts an extra $5,000 that didn't need to exist. So constantly doing an analysis of like do we have redundancies that might exist, or where do we minimally even just not even have common language that we speak in a similar way so that it has savings that exist there.
Just to ask a follow-up, so kind of thinking about your skills of data analysis,
Yeah.
how would you use that to prioritize budget components to meet the needs of their diverse population?
Yeah, I think that one, you need to start by assessing what do you value? What do we believe is having the greatest value? What do we think is maybe not, and almost assigning a value to something. I'm not talking like a financial value, but just like the benefit that it's having to students, because not all things need to be weighted equal. If something is having a profoundly positive benefit to students, it can be at a high cost. But there also might be situations where things are at a high cost and have a low value and benefit to students. And there are programs that exist. There are things that you can run through R even, which is a statistical analysis tool, where you can take. You can assign a metric or a number of a value that the benefit that it's had to students, or you can identify like the academic benefit that this tool or this thing has had, weigh it against its cost to the district, and then it spit out a value for you of whether that's like it has the cost benefit that you were looking for the district.
Thank you.
And that's something actually we did with. That's something that we did do with the university we worked with in Kentucky, but that's also something that I did for a district on the Cape for my doctorate dissertation as well.
Building on top of data. Sorry, Dan.
Sorry, go ahead. I was just going to ask if anyone else had any questions, but I guess you do.
Oh yeah, I was building on the data analysis piece because this is an important piece. Data analysis is important for long-term financial planning. As we look at our enrollment trends, and I'm not going to say the kindergarten enrollment is going to be a trend, but certainly is not looking otherwise, how do you balance that against our facility needs, right? I mean, those are only growing. We need a new high school. We're getting new roofs, thank God, for the middle school and elementary schools. But enrollment trends are going down, which means less money for the district. So how do you plan that long term? You mentioned proactive investment. It's hard to do proactive investment when our current outlook isn't looking bright.
Yeah. I think that you do need to do some financial modeling within the district. You need to look at your projected enrollment pre-K. You have to look all the way up and see how it's declining, and look at your per pupil cost as a result of that with the current staffing that we have. You have to look at the research as far as where inflation is going. So what are going to be the potential or the projected costs, inflated costs that are going to exist within even like a run rate of the things that we do in district, and set that on a multi-year kind of like trajectory model that we might run. And then, this is something where it's the art of finance is kind of knowing and have a feel for like, and planning for unforeseen consequences as well. Knowing that there is going to be unforeseen special education costs, or knowing there are going to be unforeseen maintenance costs that are going to exist that don't find their way into the budget, and planning for that and knowing that that's going to exist. So in a financial model you're running, you're trying to include every variable that could exist, and how that variable is projected to change over time, the cost of it, that it may exist as well. So even our personnel costs will just continue to rise as well.
Yeah, no, and building on that, you mentioned unforeseen costs. It's hard to model. You could be too conservative, too liberal. When unforeseen costs hit that are not part of your model, how do you prioritize what is important?
Yeah, Fortunately, I have the experience with that. Unfortunately, I've had to go through that. Is that I've been in those moments where we've had to adjust due to some unforeseen costs that we've had, where in a given year we are extra conservative on non-essential items that exist within the district. If we get into a situation where we're looking at cuts that might need to be made, we're looking at the types of cuts that one, don't have the least impact on students, and allow us to continue to kind of run our buildings the way that we need to. And sometimes that's personnel, sometimes that's, you know, other budgetary areas that exist. Personnel is tough because you're speaking about people who have lives, who have families, and for me, the thing that makes me nervous about our decline in enrollment is that those difficult conversations or those difficult topics are going to be, you know, there and present as we potentially make these through the next several years in this district. And my hope is that we look for alternatives to elimination of personnel. I think that, you know, really working to kind of highly train our staff, I think can have a profound impact on kids. But I think that's when you're looking at unexpected things that exist. I think that you are listing things by priority of what can be removed and what needs to stay at certain times.
That's it for me right now.
Okay, I'll go next. So I'm going to switch gears a little bit, as I'm prone to do. So you recently completed your doctorate program at Vanderbilt in 2022. When did you defend? Maybe it was 2023, but...
Yeah, it would have been. Yeah, it would have been. I finished in 2022, and then I graduated in the May of 2023. So literally last year.
Okay, so it's only last year.
Yeah.
So, and you mentioned and I was wondering if you could share about your capstone project with the committee, because I feel like we've talked a lot about values, and I think I wanted to hear your perspective and your commitment to those values in your capstone project, if that's okay.
Yeah. I'll try to loop in or fit this into a little bit of a finance and operations side of it, but why I chose the route that I did is because of my work in Holliston. My doctoral capstone was the hiring and retention of staff of color in predominantly white communities. I worked with the district in Cape Cod and did a deep analysis. They granted me access to all of their hiring, terminations, leaving that they've had. I interviewed staff, students, administrators that existed within the districts. I looked at their financials in the districts. I also looked at municipal finance funding as well. I worked with the town manager there and some of the neighboring communities or neighboring business owners as well to look at it from a municipal side, the types of businesses that exist, and then what are the limiters, detractors that result in that impact limited hiring of staff of color, and even worse, retention of staff of color, especially in predominantly white communities. And the core of that, which I gets at a finance and operations side of it, it really is the structure of the community and the social capital that exists within the individuals that are there. I found through our interviews that staff of color predominantly find that they have two choices when they enter in a predominantly white community. They have to choose the route of alienation or they have to choose the route of assimilation. And one is I choose to be true to myself, but I am going to struggle with alienation, or I assimilate, which means that I have to fit into the mold that exists within the community versus the community accept who I am. And that was something that rang very clearly in those interviews. On more of like a town side is the the way towns are structured are constructed for the people that choose to move there and live there and the benefits they have, which are not staff of color. They are the things that people get to choose to do, the types of restaurants, the types of hair salons, the types of like entertainment that exists. Do not pose like as a positive option for somebody that might be of a different culture or a different color to be a part of. Similarly, as far as how housing works, is cost of housing has a significant impact, and where that housing, the choice of where that housing is built. And we're not necessarily talking about low income housing, just affordable housing. The impact that has on communities. I know that, and I've talked about this, we're at low kindergarten enrollment right now. We're in a different type of housing crisis, is that we've got high interest rates, and it's very hard as a young family that may be in their early 30s looking to buy a small home in Holliston, especially when you look at prior housing trends. It's harder when they were right out of college to buy that first apartment, to then use that equity on the first home in the community that they want to raise their family. These are the same things, the same decisions that, staff of color, when they're considering a community, is that community going to accept me in that? But yeah, I can speak for hours and go into it, and I'm happy to also provide a copy of my capstone as well, to kind of dig into that, because I think my interest in doing that work was to bring it back to Holliston. It was as I immersed myself in my doctoral work and the classes that I took, it just became a ringing red flag for me over and over. And I couldn't, once you see it and once you notice it, you can't not fix it.
Thank you. I'm going to switch gears a little bit too, again, but can you talk a little bit about how, you've been in this community for, what you said, 14 years now.
11 years. I'm going to start by 12.
11 years.
This
okay.
feels like 14.
It feels like 14. I've been here for 14, so maybe that's why I was thinking of it.
Yeah.
And it feels like you've been here the entire time. How do you think you'll work on developing relationships with, like, say, other boards in town, something you haven't really done or needed to do? Other than our board, so there's like the select board, the finance committee, and other community partners. What's your strategy around that, or if you have a strategy around that?
Yeah. I think the benefit of being here for 11 years is the reality is I actually do have relationships with many of the individuals that are on many of those boards. I've taught many of the kids of the children of many of their families, and I've had interactions with folks over the years that I've been here. And the benefit, or one benefit that I feel that I bring to this position that maybe somebody outside wouldn't be able to, is some of the social capital, the relationships that I currently have with those individuals. I know about Holliston. I know about how the systems play out, the people that are at play that exist. I do participate in different panels, community groups that exist, where I do get the opportunity to meet anywhere from groups that are part of the Select Board, FinCom, to Parks and Rec, to Holliston Youth and Family, to the Police Department, to the Fire Department as well, are all individuals that exist that I have relationships with. I find that, kind of to your question, is if I can develop a system of trust that's rooted in a relationship, when I present hard data or difficult conversations that folks maybe don't want to hear, if it's rooted in a relationship and a mutual level of respect, there's a place to hear it, and ability for us to work together and move forward. And I think that there's great opportunity for our systems to kind of, in our departments as a community, in all communities, to interconnect to better serve our students. I think if we can do that, and we do that well, this is and can continue to be and can be more an even more special community.
Thank you.
Thanks.
That's it for me.
I'm going to switch gears from, build on, I guess. And
Switching gears, building on.
Switching gears and moving on.
Question, Frank?
Yeah, I got one more. This is definitely a finance job, so there's financial things involved, and honestly, not a lot of people understand finance. What are some ideas you have to break down the complexities of what's going on with our budget? You saw what happened with the budget conversations as well as the override and the number of questions that were out there by the community, by the school committee, by other committees. How would you ideas you would break those down to make them more palatable, more human, so that people can understand a little bit better what they're signing up for, what they're voting on?
Yeah, I think a challenge if you're like so immersed, and I'm guilty of this all the time. I get caught in babble. I get caught in my own world and head on things. I'm there, and it's as if like you're, especially in finance, you're living in those numbers. So you speak in those numbers, and it makes perfect sense in your head, and doesn't necessarily for somebody else. I find, especially when I've done different presentations. I was speaking to this a little bit earlier when we talked about how in the 11 years that I've been here, how I use data is start with a claim. So meaning that like you're not immediately jumping right into the data and explaining the data. Is that you're making a statement, you're making a claim where the person who is receiving that claim is like, no way, or maybe like, really, and they've engaged in kind of understanding that claim, and then you get into kind of the evidence and the reasoning behind it, and that's where using graphic or visual representations of data, and being able to kind of do that as much as kind of your posters, but like yes, your visual representation, simplistic visual representations that. Sometimes you even acknowledge these are oversimplified representations of the claim that I'm making, and if we really want to dig down, I'm happy to. And I do think that there's a place that there should be, whether it's a small subsect within the school committee or within FinCom, that should understand the depths of the data that we go into. But at that initial level is making that claim, having, it could be potentially very simplified, but a visual representation, an accurate visual representation of the data, and then a real understanding of the impact. I think when you sandwich it between the claim and the impact, I think that's where you're going to get the engagement in the finances or in the data that you have. You make a claim, sometimes that claim is like, it's escalating, it's like, oh my goodness, or calming. You have a graphical representation or a visual representation of that data. If you aimed for it to be simplified, but you may lose folks in that point. But then you circle back to like the impact that this may have, or this decision, or the direction that we move in. I've found there's been a strategy that's worked for me in presentations that I've done to the school committee, to the town, to teachers, to any individual that I'm working with.
Got one more for you. Could you please describe your knowledge about transportation in public schools, and then what challenges you envision moving forward for you and the district in that area?
Yeah, it's limited as far as like the extent that the school business manager does transportation, and I don't say that lightly. I think it's limited for anybody that's coming, even with past experience in a different district. The variables, the situation that you're coming into is very unique to the town that you're in, and the constraints that exist within the town. That said, I understand and have been in the school. The students of Robert Adams Middle School have been very impacted by changes or adjustments or emergencies or crises that have happened with transportation. I was giving some examples of like a tree falls down in one neighborhood, or there's a road closing that exists because they're cutting out the bridge here. That doesn't just impact that immediate area. You need to, when we're making an adjustment or when you're making a change within the transportation, you need to understand how moving this variable is going to impact traffic patterns that exist completely across town, because they will. Because when you're moving when an area of like a flow pattern of where even like commuters go through, it's going to cause traffic in other places. And so the normal time it took other bus routes to make those runs are going to be impacted across the district. And Keith's amazing at this and brilliant at this is making those spur-of-the-moment decisions that are as close as possibly could be to accurate and the right decision. And that's the hardest part of it, is there's not wiggle room to make a large mistake in that area. Is at the moment's notice, you need a full understanding of the traffic patterns that exist and the residents that exist across the entire community, because a small change or tweak can still have a profound impact of whether kids get there to school on time. And despite high efforts by Keith, by the busing company, you might be in situations, especially at the beginning of the year, where we have kids that on a regular basis are showing up late. That bus is showing up late after it's run its kind of 3 runs at the different schools to your school. And parents aren't going to really tolerate that for long. And what they don't see is they don't see Keith and working with busing and working incredibly hard to come up with a tweak. And it can't be a major change, because if he does a major change to transportation to kind of correct this problem, it may fix that problem, but it may create a significant and large problem in another location within the community. So that I do know. I also kind of circling back to some of the scheduling experience that I do have is that is very much in alignment to how we think about students and the services that they're receiving and how they remove or work their way through the day. We have your average teacher teaches four classes. We have maybe 1 special educator per team that serves a specific need. We have 680 students. We have multiple plannings that are occurring at different times. We have lunches that are worked in there. And everybody needs to get what they need during that day. And little tweaks can still have profound and large impacts.
Thank you.
I have one more. Firstly, I want to thank Keith for all of his service before I go into this question, so we know where this is going. Is there anything you would do differently? Think differently. And this is not a reflection of Keith, by the way, so we don't go in there, but just how we've been doing things. Is there anything you would radically change about how we handle this role, the role you play?
The very first thing I learned in my doctoral program is there are no simple solutions, and oftentimes the pitfall of people moving into positions as they come in, it's called, our professors called it solutionitis, is simple solutions to really complex things. And while the things I may think in my head, like, oh, I'm going to do this, or this can happen, or whatever, I think it's important before I were to actually answer that question is to be in the role and actually understand how the system works. Because I feel like that's not completely fair to Keith, that some things may exist that may frustrate people in certain ways, that exist for a reason, that solve a problem, and it's a small loss for a big gain that may exist in other areas. That said, I've got a different set of experiences that I think would be unique to the position. I'm a former teacher. I'm a former assistant principal, administrator. Been at the middle school level, the high school level. I've worked at public schools in different states, not just Massachusetts. That's something I think that understanding of the education side and how resources impact the individual teacher and the individual student, and kind of seeing like this purchase and then how it's impacting the educational outcomes of students is something unique that I think I can bring to the position.
Thank you.
All right, so save me for last, I guess. Talking from behind you. Can you hear me right?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Just say you can't hear him.
I had a question about your technology sort of priorities and things, but you basically kind of addressed that earlier tonight. So I'm going to go right to a harder question. So just looking at obviously the elephant in the room, I think obviously you've done a great job tonight, in my mind anyway, explaining your skill set and your background. But if you just pull up your resume, it does not screen finance and operations. And so what I'd like you to help us understand a little bit is what's your entry plan? Where do you think your greatest areas for learning are going to be? How are you planning on addressing them? What that overall process is going to look like, and just so that kind of help the community and us understand that maybe your resume doesn't scream it, but you're putting it, you've thought through a process of getting to where you need to be to ensure that we have the right person for this role.
Yeah, I even before I first applied for this position, I wanted to kind of make that very clear on how I would fill that gap or could fill that gap. In my conversations with Keith and with Susan, I do believe and significantly believe and benefited from mentorship that exists. I'm looking forward to kind of Keith's presence and being kind of like in his back pocket as much as I possibly can. That said, is MASBA, the Massachusetts Business Administrators Association, also does a 1-year and multiple-year mentorship program and courses specifically for folks that are transitioning from either other areas in education, so from principal to business administrator, or from a finance in the business world to school business administrator, and are going through those very specific courses that exist. In that they also assign you a mentor sort of outside of the district, so working with another business administrator that exists in a neighboring district or a district that exists outside of Holliston. I also kind of, when I started as a principal, I would say equally like moving from teacher to assistant principal is equally as a unique of a jump that nothing prepares you for, and having a cohort of area principals for me when I went into administration, but also having a cohort of school business administrators or other assistant superintendents of finance and operations that I'm able to call up, text a concern, or how would you solve this problem, and work with somebody who's been in the field for years. I found more invaluable to me when I moved into administration than any other resource or course that I took. That says, I'm a prolific reader. I am a systems thinker. I think quantitatively, and as far as the way that I dig into things. So I'm excited at the opportunity to kind of really get into it. But I'm going to need a lot of assistance. I know that. And on the finance side, I do believe my experience does speak to the operations side, that said. And that while, it's hard to like write down specific operations pieces that exist within schools, being a principal is very much an operations position as far as the personnel, the impact of everything that's going on within the building is managed and overseen by the principal on that operations side.
Okay, great. And I think I want to, as we get, towards the end of the interview, I want to bring Keith in a little bit, only because he came in and transitioned from a different role, a different sort of job, and just sort of maybe he can sort of help us understand that and why, where his thoughts are.
On what?
When you came to the
Transition
district.
into the position
Yeah, when you
from
came to the
outside of
district.
public schools
Transitioning
and the
knowledge
mentorship.
base, because you came in not from the private sector, and speaking from someone myself who's in the private sector, it's a very different role, even if it's finance.
Yeah, no, I came after, my job previous to this one was 7 years in the Harvard University budget office. So I mean, there I was managing $250,000 and most of the technology. There were pieces that were applicable, and there were pieces that, I didn't have. I had when I was younger and in college, I worked in the food service industry, so I had a familiarity with it, but not necessarily to the state standards that have to be, followed, and going through the audits of that process. Transportation, I knew what a bus was. But with regards to, the actual routing and stuff, I learned by the seat of my pants a little bit. And truthfully, Pat Weston, who was our transportation coordinator at the time, I worked a lot with her on it. We happen to have a great contractor right now who's been with us longer than I've been here. That's subject to bid every 3 to 5 years. So, but again, it's unless you take a lateral move into this, there's always going to be shortcomings. And the question is how well do you adapt to them? How well do you adjust to them? When I started, there was a very tight group of school business administrators through the Tech Collaborative that we met regularly. We saw each other socially as well, and a lot of them became my golfing buddies for more than a decade. Of that original group, there's 3 of us left now. And one is leaving sometime this year like I am. The other one's leaving at the end of the year. Well, we're all going to be gone. It's one of the things that's happening in this industry. There aren't people following up in it, which is you guys all saw when the job search happened or the job was opened. The difference is now is because the knowledge pool of the industry is changing so much that I think it's going to be even tougher going forward. I'm not trying to scare you, but it's even going to be tougher going forward, and David's going to have to plug in even much more so to others, because it is just not that. Again, when I started, there was only 2 of us who were rookies at the time, and in this area, and everybody else was a veteran. I mean by a veteran, 10, 15, 20 years. And that piece just isn't as available as it once was, and so. That's the piece where, again, it's important to make those connections and know who you can reach out to. It's kind of like how I'm one of the state experts on school choice, and for lack of a better thing, because we've been such an active school choice community. I know the law, I know the way that it works for you. I know how to present it in a fashion so that people don't think that it's something bad. So it's again, my presentations on this have gone into all different corners of the state. But again, everybody learns some piece of it very well. And when you have a question about X, you go to that person who knows X. So, I mean, the transition takes time. There are plenty of courses with regards to the most important report that I do is my end-of-year report that usually starts in September. There is a person, an organization a class I went to on it, and he's still doing it. He's a friend of mine now, and we talk whenever we see each other at our conferences. But again, I'm going to push. If David is a successful candidate, I'm going to push him into that course. It happens. I think it's September 12th. But it's again, it's that sort of thing where again you have to pick up things as you go along, and again, none of this is going to be perfect. As Stacy knows, I used to have my expression about, my goal is 180 pristine days.
Right.
I'm 0 for 24. But understanding that and acknowledging that, knowing that there are going to be things that screw up. And not even just like emergencies. That emergency in some ways are the easy piece, because you know what? Something bad's happening. You're here to fix it.
Yeah.
When it's something you've done wrong, you made the problem. Now what do I do? And that's the tougher challenge, to understand that in these roles you are going to have failures. You're not going to be able to please, the parents of 2,742, whatever we're at now, students. It's just not going to happen. And so there will be people who think that you're, I would say the greatest thing. I know that's not true. There'll be parents who tolerate you, and there'll be parents who think that you're a moron, and for lack of a better term. And you just have to kind of get used to that range of opinions about what you're doing. David's right. I mean, we do all this stuff. It's about the children and giving them the best opportunity. But when you look at some of the challenges that are there, I mean, David's talking about allocation of resources. We don't have enough resources to allocate. You know what I mean? 70% of our budget is payroll.
Exactly.
And then add into that things like special ed costs and transportation costs and cleaning costs and utilities and stuff. And I'm dealing with less than 10% of the budget in any sort of discretionary fashion. So when you look at it that way, it's not about I'm going to do X instead of Y. It's can I do either of them at times?
Right.
And that's the challenge of it's not what can I allocate or even reallocate. It's how do I just make sure that I'm not going over budget in a given year. So it's at times it's management by crisis. No,
And how many times has that happened in 24 years?
never. But look, there was the year that we froze the budget on July 2nd, so I'll say that. So, but no, it is a learning experience. The only people that come into it knowing the job, not necessarily in your district, but the job and all facets of it is a lateral move.
Right.
There aren't a lot of lateral moves right now. I can tell you that right now for a fact. So that's, but I can offer there, and my ongoing support, obviously. So.
Appreciate it.
Well, thank you. And I apologize, I misspoke. You came from a non-municipal background, not a private sector background.
You may not want to consider Harvard a school because but that's fine.
But it's not a municipality.
No. No.
If it was, I could have retired earlier and gotten to 80%. So
There you go. All right. Well, so does anyone else have any additional questions to Dr. Jordan? All right, Dr. Jordan, is there anything you'd like to wrap up with, a conclusionary statement or anything like that?
No, thanks for having me. This is, as I started, this is a district that I've been very happy in. It's a district that I am very invested in the initiatives that I've put in place at the middle school and the things that we've seen through. And this is a place I look forward to kind of continuing and finishing my career here in Holliston. And so I just appreciate you all giving me the opportunity to present. Thank you.
Thanks for coming.
Thank you very much. So just for those at home, obviously, as you've been watching, you notice we are down 2 members tonight. We only have 5. I think that this is an incredibly important role, and I think that I want to have everybody have the opportunity, if possible, to weigh in when we do vote. And I also think that we want to spend some time if other members want to speak to Dr. Jordan further, have any further questions. So we'll push. We're not going to vote tonight. I'm going to try to find a time where all 7 of us can meet, and maybe on Zoom, just so everyone understands within the coming weeks. But if anyone from the community has any feedback they want to provide, obviously they can send us emails and communicate with us. And then we'll look to include this in the coming weeks.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay. So we're now into 9 o'clock. Where we check up.
We have a dumpster fire to get to. That's what.
Motion to adjourn.
What's it?
Motion to adjourn.
Not debatable.
Well, just quickly, so obviously with the special town meeting vote passing to appropriate the money, the next and final step is a September 10th town election that will be held in the gym of the high school, like any other election. That's going to be the week after the primary elections, so you'll know the route. So September 10th, I believe the select board will be voting to officially call that election next week. But that's up to their discretion. But so now we're switching into a period where really the school committee sort of takes a lesser sort of role as far as advocating for this, and we can we can spend more time informing people. But I can know that there's a group of parents forming. But it is not. There are rules around what we can and can't do from our official capacity and using sort of public time resources. So before doing anything, let's just check in with each other and. But informing, answering questions is very much prudent. And I would just like to say they're having a lot of questions swirling on Facebook and in areas. The amount that we're going to receive and appropriated from town meeting, if the override would pass, will cover the 4 years of the 4 years, the 3 years of this contract. That, of course, does not mean we will not continue to need the town's increased support as we do every year, and we need regardless of this contract or not. So, but the town has supported the schools for the last 10 years at a 3.2% rate, and the built-in financial modeling is a 3.25% rate. So right, sort of right on the nail on what the town has been able to afford. And so I'm confident in that. But this contract is this request is going to cover this contract for the 3-year period. One thing we do need to do tonight quickly is just take a vote on sort of authorizing Keith to work with the town for the schools to cover the cost of the election. We don't have an exact number, so I don't want to go into an exact number. I think I'd rather sort of just have the cost sort of, we pay the cost as they come in rather than sort of authorizing the total number. I think last number I heard Travis say was he was thinking around $12,000, but I think, someone would like to make a motion to authorize Keith to sort of, have the school pay for the cost of the election. I think that would be.
Dave, if we don't know how much it is, though, I get we're not stating an exact number. Yeah, if we could say up to.
Do we want to do an up to and a?
Sure, up to $15,000 without needing an additional vote or something like that. It's supposed to be under that, but.
Keith's giving a face.
Do you have different numbers?
Do you have it?
I have no idea.
Okay, I just wanted to make sure it wasn't-
I've heard numbers from like free to like
I know.
70 grand, so it's,
Okay.
That's why I put a ceiling on it, just in case, because we vote on it and the number drastically changes.
Well, if it is, then we can revote it, I suppose, right? Like,
Right, so right, that was kind of why I was not putting a cap on it, because I didn't think it was going to.
okay. Moved by Cynthia.
Second by Dawn.
What exactly was moved by Cynthia?
I'm sorry, a cap of no more than 15,000 for the election, the cost of the election.
Okay, so that requires a roll call vote.
I already saw that.
That's fine, that was what I was thinking.
Okay.
Double check. So roll call vote, Hillary,
Yes.
Cynthia?
Yes.
Frank?
Yes.
Dawn?
Yes.
And I am a yes. Is there anything anyone else wants to talk about as far as supplemental funding, first time meeting, any of that?
No.
No.
Okay. So with that, we are at the end of our agenda, unless I'm missing something. Our next meeting is TBD. We have to actually get that. I don't think we voted on our next year's schedule yet, so we'll have to do that. But it will be sometime in the next couple of weeks to take a vote on Dr. Jordan's appointment, potential appointment as Assistant Superintendent of Finance and Operations. So with that, I will entertain a motion to adjourn to executive session, from which we will not return for the purposes of discussing strategy with respect to collective bargaining or litigation in an open meeting may have a detrimental effect on the bargaining or litigating position of the public body. The chair so declares. This is related to collective bargaining with our administrators, the union, and the cafeteria workers, as well as to discuss strategy and preparation for negotiations with non-union personnel. In this case, it's the Superintendent of Finance Operations as well as network specialists. Those roles.
Moved by Cynthia.
Second by Dawn.
Okay. Hillary?
Yes.
Yeah.
Cynthia?
Yes.
Frank?
Yes.
Sorry.
Dawn?
Yes.
I don't like these.
And I am a yes. So we stand adjourned. We would all go back to the other room.
Ugh, do we have to? Can we go in the other classroom instead? Because
It's closed.
There's no furniture in there.
You want to sit on the floor?
no. Why is there no
Okay.
furniture in there?
Because we're getting ready for September. This is,
It's okay. This
summers
is
are for
not-
September, not for
Budget cuts.
play.
Yes.
Not a budget
We'll go
cut.
back to the other link.
Okay.
And go
All right.
from there.
Dan, did you need me to attend?
No, if you'd like to, you're welcome, but certainly if you'd like the rest of your night and go watch the debate, you can do that.
Okay, and I'll go, but can somebody send me the link, because I don't have it.
It's on the agenda, it's just the executive session.
Oh, I'm sorry.
It's below.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay.